Welcome back to part 2 of our conversation with Matt Miller, where he tells us why there's no such thing as get rich quick, and why you should build your business while you're still receiving a paycheck from your employer. Keep it locked because part 2 is coming up.
Welcome to this edition of Peak Performers Podcast with your host, Thor Conklin. Thor will be sharing the necessary tools, strategies, and psychology you'll need to become a peak performer in any area of your life or business.
Thor Conklin here. We give you the tricks, the tips, the tools, the strategy, the technology, and the psychology peak performers use in order to get more done and execute at the highest level. If you know what to do but struggle with getting it all done, or simply want to raise your game to the next level, this podcast is for you. Sit back and enjoy. You started a company, Spirit Vending. Why did you create it? How did you come up with the idea? And bring us through the story.
I got out of the Air Force, was excited after my 9-year commitment was up. I was ready to do my own thing because I had learned along the way that I didn't like being told what to do. Man, the military is a lousy place to be if you find that out about yourself. Anyway, I thought the corporate world would be better. In a lot of ways it was. But what I found out is, especially working for a publicly traded company, that the rules are always changing and they most of the time were never in my favor. And some initial decisions were made when I started working in the advertising space that cut my pay like in half as far as commissions and bonuses. And I went from being in a really good place, starting to get our feet under us after getting out of the military, to being in a deep hole. Looking at the comp plan, I knew there was no way for me to get out anytime soon, just continuing to do what I was doing. So I started doing stuff on the side. I started collecting aluminum cans and selling them back for a while. I started a used book business on Amazon and half.com and Alibris. In fact, I was an Amazon seller before Amazon selling was cool. And my garage looked like a public library for a while there with the aisles and aisles and aisles of books. The challenge was I had read Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki, and I bought into his whole idea of passive income and making money while you slept. And neither of those things that I'd done would allow me to do that. So I was grateful for them because they helped keep a roof over our head and food on the table. They weren't going to allow me to get where I wanted to be long term, which was to be my own boss and to have financial independence. And so I had a buddy at church one Sunday mention gumball machines and his young daughters, and they had gotten a couple of machines and placed them in some local businesses. And I remember that conversation, and I said, maybe I should give this whole vending thing a try. Did a little research online, bought a couple of eBooks on Amazon, and a couple weeks later bought my first used candy and gumball machine on eBay from a guy across Houston, so I didn't even have to pay for shipping. And one Saturday loaded up my 2 oldest kids, who were 8 and 9 at the time, and took off across Houston to pick up that machine, and slowly taught myself vending. Fast forward a year and a half later or so, I had about 125 locations around Houston, was putting it together nights and weekends outside of my corporate career, and had ventured into toys and temporary tattoos and stickers and that type of thing as well. And then 07 and 08 hit, the market crashed, and less people were frequenting the restaurants and the businesses where I had equipment, and I was frustrated. And right around that time, I had several young kids come knocking on my door selling stuff for the local school fundraiser, and thought it was odd because I didn't know the kids, so they were going essentially to strangers' houses. Was uncomfortable with that, having kids of similar age. And right around that time, the whole idea of, well, man, maybe I could do custom stickers for schools with mascots and all that, place a sticker machine in the school. It would provide me more stability for the ups and downs of the economy that I was seeing out in the business world. And it would also maybe get some kids off the street. And so that's where the whole idea of School Spirit Vending was born. Had a buddy of mine who was an elementary PE teacher, told him about my idea. He went and talked to his principal at West Columbia Elementary in West Columbia, Texas, outside of Houston. And literally 10 years ago, next month in October, we placed our first test school, and School Spirit Vending was born. Fast forward to today, we're in about 3,000 schools around the country. We're a franchise with 106 franchise families in about 43 or 44 states, and are just growing like a weed.
Now, I saw that you had a goal to get into all 52 states. What states are you missing? Just in case anybody's listening here, we can start to fill them in.
That wasn't me that said 52 states. I think that was a politician sometime in our recent past. But we're in Hawaii now. We're in Alaska now. We're in pretty much all of the South and the West, the Midwest and the Northeast. We still have a lot of work to do just because we're pretty new working in those areas. But we're having a blast doing it, and are filling a huge need for schools across the country and for families who are wanting to start businesses but maybe don't know how, or are struggling with putting together a business on top of a full-time career. And one of the beauties of our program is the fact that it can be done on a limited time commitment without having to choose my career or my business.
Yeah, I love that. So often I don't work with startups, but so often I get questions from people. It's like, when should I quit my job? Well, when you make more than you're currently making. They're like, no, I just don't like my job. I understand. But there's such things as pay your bills. And I love this concept where you're building a business on the side until such point you're getting it where you got the income coming in where you can leave. Great advice. I see so much of this. Hey, just leave the job, take some faith, leap off the ledge, and you'll be caught. Well, sometimes you don't get caught. Sometimes you end up bankrupt and broke. So
that never ends well, Thor. Maybe for a single person who can live with mom and dad for a period of time or something like that. But especially, I had a family of 5. I had a lot of responsibility, and there is no way I was going to put all of that in jeopardy for a maybe someday type scenario. I kept my job way longer than others around me would have suggested that I do it, but I didn't want to have to ever go back. And so I was making, I think, 4 times more in our business than I was full time before I took that leap. And when I did, I quit my job. We bought our first house. I moved from the Houston area to Central Texas, out in the middle of EIEIO is what I call it, on some acreage. We have, raised some animals and have a big vegetable garden, can see the stars at night, and, have never looked back. And we just wanted to do it right so that we could stay where we are instead of, having to jump back into the corporate world at some point in time down the road.
Yeah, I think that's great advice if you're single and you can do it, or if you're married and you want to move back in with your parents.
There you go.
There you go. Maybe that's the objective. I'm tired of living on my own, or my wife and kids. Let's move back in with the parents. So I love that the way you set that up. Tell us some of the lessons that you learned along the way. And one of the things that I talk about all the time, and of course, when I say this, not everyone, a lot of people hear this as, oh yeah, that's what happens with other people. But I've got this great product, people are going to love it, or I'm awesome at business, so that may apply to others. It's not going to apply to me. And that is, it takes time for things to ramp up. It's quiet. And as you saw, I'm sure with your business, one day it all starts to grab and now it starts to take off. But there takes a time to really get it going. There's the wheels are spinning, but we're not getting any traction. So what are some of the lessons that you learned along the way? Some of the things that worked, some of the things that didn't work?
Well, first off, it ties into what you just said. This is a marathon, guys. It's not a sprint. Malcolm Gladwell in his book Outliers talks about 10,000 hours to be great at anything. Well, guess what? There's not a shortcut to that. So get excited about putting in your 10,000 hours and stop trying to not work the 10,000 hours. Just get excited about the process. Nothing is worthwhile if it doesn't take time to put together, and it's not going to last either. This is I think we do a real disservice to ourselves and society because we hear about, the Michael Dells and the Elon Musks and the LeBron Jameses of the world. And all we hear about is their lifestyle and their cars and their house and this and that. We don't really, in most cases, hear about all the hard work that went on behind the scenes and all the things that they gave up along the way to get there. And so we've got a distorted sense of reality when it comes to what it takes to succeed. Yes, LeBron James was blessed with some talents that I do not have. But LeBron James also spent thousands of hours on the court when his buddies were out chasing skirts to be who he is today. And most of us miss that part. There's no such thing as get rich quick. There just isn't. All those videos that you're seeing on YouTube or on Facebook of the guy or the gal sitting on the beach, with their laptop, they're a myth, man. It doesn't happen. And so the quicker you embrace the grind, the quicker you embrace the process of becoming whatever you're meant to become, the quicker you can get about getting there, because there are no, short-term or shortcuts to success. And I think people need to hear that, because too many people are out selling something that's not real instead of talking about reality so that people truly know what it's going to take to succeed.
Yeah, it's really interesting that you say that. Just last weekend, I had the opportunity to spend some time with Sara Blakely, the founder of Spanx and the youngest female billionaire. And, of course, everybody was asking, how'd you do it, right? What great concept did you come up with? How was your advertising? Well, first of all, Spanx never advertised until about a year ago. They became $1 billion asset before they advertised for $1. What Sara did in the very beginning was she picked up the phone and she spoke to buyers. And then she got on planes to go out to see them. And her first account was Neiman Marcus. And the way she got that is because she got in front of the buyer, tried on the Spanx, showed them what they could do. And then here's the interesting thing. You know what she did for 2.5 years? 2.5 years. She spent every day, Monday through Sunday, at a Neiman Marcus in the hosiery department, selling her product to customers that walked in. She was not going to rely on Neiman Marcus's salespeople to sell the product. They didn't understand it yet. She sat there and sold them herself. At night, she tells a story at night, her display got moved to the back of one of the stores, so she decided to move it up by the cash register, and it wouldn't stick. It wouldn't stay, right? So she decided to duct tape it to the register. And they caught her on security film. It's like, Sarah, do you know how your display got up here? She goes, no. She goes, well, I didn't know that either until we saw the videotape. Now, I tell that story because here is the youngest self-made billionaire woman. She did it by working her butt off. She did it by working every day, grinding to work with customers. She wasn't employed by Neiman's. If it had been Saks, she would have been in Saks. If it was Target, she would have been in Target stores. So nowadays, people want to just, let me get that right Facebook ad going, right? Because if I just do that and I just plug it in, everything's going to be great. Work it. Grind.
Well, and you're never going to have all the answers. I was watching, I don't know if you're familiar with Tim Ferriss's TV show that he's got now. It's called Fearless. And he recently had an episode with the guy who founded ESPN. And as he's talking, it became obvious real quickly, and I don't remember the guy's name, but it became obvious real quickly that the guy made things up as he went along through the entire process. Too many people are out there getting ready to get 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 in the game.
Yeah.
Instead of getting in the game and realizing that you're going to mess up a lot, but by messing up and failing and learning, you move forward and you eventually figure things out. Guys, your business is never going to turn out the way you think it is. So get after it and get to the point where you do figure it out quicker by being in the game. I thought our market was going to be high school kids. That's where the whole idea came from. Sporting events, football, basketball games, and all that. We found out real quickly that the older kids don't interact with our machines, but the younger kids did. So we pivoted and changed our entire model to work in that environment instead of the one initially that I thought was going to be the winning combination. If I was still trying to figure that out and formulate a game plan or a strategy or a business plan or whatever, I'd still be in my job, still be frustrated, still be broke, wondering, when things were going to change. So step off and get in the game.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. You've got to be able to pivot. You've got to be able to adjust. So often I see entrepreneurs, they get into this zone. This is my baby. I love this product. I love this service. This is the way I see it. My mom tells me it's great, so it's got to be, and I'm not going to move off of this plan, right? I'm going this course. Be willing to change.
Yeah. The other thing is, just bootstrap it, man.
Yeah.
Figure it out. Everybody, the big buzzwords of getting funding and the seed round and just all this stuff. Okay, granted, there's some companies that makes total sense to, and some people that's the only reason why they're building a business. But man, I busted my rear for years. There was a period of time where I was delivering pizzas at Pizza Hut for a year and a half. On top of my vending business and traditional businesses, on top of my ad career, on top of starting SSV, on top of being a father and a husband and active in my church, I was burning the candle at both ends, and there was no balance in my life for a short period of time. But that was intentional. I needed the seed capital, and I didn't want to borrow a bunch of money if I could help it. And I definitely didn't want to bring a bunch of investors in who were going to we're going to have control over my baby. So I gutted it out. I figured it out. And because of that, we have much humbler beginnings. We are lean and mean and have always been. And instead of all the fluff and the this and the that, we're just about doing what we do, which is supporting schools with fundraising, providing security for families on our franchise team, and impacting kids in a positive way through our program.
Yeah, you take me as somebody, if we were behind closed door just having a beer one night, we'd be talking about your profits, not your top line. You'd be talking about how you've built an organization that has a strong foundation, that has leadership in it, that has 105 loyal, devoted franchisees that are committed to this business.
Right. No doubt.
And so often everyone likes to talk about their funding or the top line or this new office that I got. You should see it. It's got the funkiest, nicest chairs. You can't believe it. They're only $1,200 a piece. And I know our clients and prospects are going to be impressed.
Yeah.
I see it all the time.
Don't get me started.
That's right. Don't get me started. We got to get back on track here. All right. I know my clients that are listening go, yep, that's Thor. Yep, he's told me that too. Everybody's interested in success. However, only a few are really committed to it. What's the difference? Those that are committed are willing to do whatever it takes in order to get their outcome, in order to get their goals. If you're not getting the results you need and want, chances are it's accountability. Who's holding you accountable? I've got a challenge for you. For 1 month, 30 days, and $95, our team will hold you accountable for what you said you were going to get done in that month to get your goals, get your outcomes done. If at the end of 30 days you don't like the results or you just didn't like the system, we'll give you your money back. The question is, are you interested or are you committed?
Be on the lookout for part 3 of our interview with Matt, where he tells us the 2 secrets to running a successful franchise and why you need a coach to hold you accountable. I'll see you guys on another edition of Peak Performers Podcast.